Hello, everybody, and welcome to Anime Sickos. It's the podcast for geniuses, and the only podcast where we look at the four pillars of modern misery: anime, gaming, posting, and jobs. I'm Tom, an anime sicko.
I am Joe, an anime sicko.
Joe, I hear that we got a Guesto today. I heard the news on the radio. Is that true?
Normally two people, you and I.
Yeah,
but what if I told you that number's going up by one?
I'd be saying that number go up makes me happy, so it feels like great news. Who's the Guesto, Joe? Introduce them.
We are joined by my close friend and also a child of the southwest suburbs, Em Haverty.
Hi there, my name is Em Haverty, my pronouns are they, them, and she, her.
I'm excited because there's basically two types of guests on this show. There are creative connections through Tom in Chicago, and then there's just like people who grew up near 127th and Pulaski. And are they disjointed, the two groups sometimes, but also sometimes not. And I think that's what's the real treat here. So, Em,
Joe.
So we're gonna ask you a question. What's your deal?
Yeah, what the fuck is my deal? For real. So yeah, I'm an writer and performer in Chicago. Grew up with Joe in the southwest suburbs.
You're sort of the best of both worlds in that sense for Guestos, in that you are like us, an insufferable creative person, but also are a swap-o-rama going to homie.
Yeah, it's weird being betwixt the lands. We had an English teacher who an incredibly toxic person who said you could take the boy out of the southwest suburbs, but you can't take the southwest suburbs out of the boy. And I got him because I am not a boy. So that is like the ongoing inner tension in all of my creative work. Because like I did a lot of I started with like stand up and writing a lot of like sketch and comedy with Joe and our sketch comedy group, and then it started like going into storytelling, and then that got into like the more experimental side of storytelling that's like influenced by like Chicago theater and like fringe theater, and then now I'm like kind of just coming back into comedy, and it's pretty wild. So I have just like all these different disciplines and like just kind of pulling them all together and trying to find cool, emergent, and funny ways to do that, because man, the art world, whew, it's real rough. It's not rough, it's just weird when you're from the southwest suburbs and didn't have like a classical education in the arts.
I don't know how to talk about art because like we were raised wrong. I'll say like as a joke on this lovely podcast, music really goes, but that's because I lack the ability and the mental agility to articulate what I'm actually experiencing.
My understanding, Joe, of how you describe music, and this is what I've gleaned from reading Pitchfork when I was a teen, is that if a guitar kind of like sounds like this, if it goes like, that's angular. You call that angular, and that's pretty much all I got.
Like, I've had shoegaze explained to me for hours, and I think that's music.
No, it's definitely something about shoes, dude. What are you talking about?
I don't know. It's so no like the southwest suburbs is like an absolute dearth of like cultural capital. It is like it is the lowest sea level.
Correct, but here's the other thing, and we're gonna do a segment on this, which is the specific rot of our ancestral home. But I agree, there is a dearth because it's just like a big place for heating and air conditioner repair. But like, it's also home to the funniest people I've ever met in my life. There's like an inverse of it. And I don't mean like funny people like comedians. I mean like there were just like normal people I would meet, and they have no idea that they're the funniest fucking person that ever existed.
Yeah.
A vivid memory I have all the time is we were picking up a pizza in Midlothian, and there was the guy making the pizza, and do you remember the guy who could not speak without going duh beforehand?
It was gorgeous. He was a beautiful human being. These pizzas don't have a timer. Is what it rattles through my brain.
We left, right? Because I think your brother had to pay, and I was like, I can't be in here because it's just so good.
Like we had to like more or less take a lap. Because of this man. Because like he kept talking, and like the thing is that like, okay, it's a bustling pizzeria, and it's not so much that there's a lot of customers.
He was giving commands.
Yeah, and like it's like there was like the crowd noise level, and then him sailing above it.
And every time he spoke, he went duh.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh
yeah.
Like it was like
a baby Huey.
Yes, exactly. And like there was one of them where it's like, I can't find the spoons. Get the spoons, Jimmy. And that is when I like, it was one of those where you're like, oh, I woke up and now I'm outside. I think I clipped through the window. Just
yeah, and part of it is like, when you're a kid, you're like, oh, these are just the people around me, so like I think they're funny because it's all I know. And it's like, no, as I got older, no, I've never lived in a location that hit that hard.
Oh man, okay, hold on. I have another weird pizzeria story from the southwest suburbs. May you indulge me? Okay.
Yes. Fucking. If you withhold this from me, I'll kill you.
Excellent. Great. Oh no. All right. This was at Caprio's Pizza, which is near Joe's house. It was on Harlem near 127th, and I loved it. It was very dear to me. It was one of my favorite pizza places that closed down. I went there as a kid to pick up a pizza, like walked out of my brother drove there. I came in to pick up this pizza, and he was talking, the owner, who we called Papa Caps. I just got that. I just figured it was because we usually said Papa Caprios. And he was talking with someone, and they went quiet, like, as I was coming in. And, like, to me, he said, do you ever, like, just look at someone, and, like, you see someone walking that you don't know, and you're like, man, get a load of this person. And I was like, yeah. Yeah, I guess I have. Well, see ya. And I had my pizza and I left. And then I was like, went back to the car and realized that they were talking about me. Which is like objectively hysterical. To have just like that, like even just the audacity of like man, what a weird fucking kid. But I'm not gonna tell him to his face directly. But this is like maybe he was trying to help me out. Maybe I'm giving him too much credit. But yeah, there's like this Midwesternness to that too, of like this like indirect way of busting someone's chops.
Yeah, how mean can you be without a paper trail? Is like the game.
Yeah. Fuck.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to ask the question all of the guests get. I feel like we are sufficiently warmed up. We've been goofed off is the term that's happened.
Fuck you. I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't either.
Goof me off, Jim.
Yeah,
No.
Is that the question?
Yeah.
You goof me off.
No, the question is, are you an anime sicko? And like all the other guests, you know the rules. There is no wrong answer here.
Unless you give a wrong answer, in which case we'll yell at you. It has happened once. Riley Hopkins gave an incorrect answer.
Oh, man. Yes, I'm an anime sicko. However, I feel like with anime in particular, I have lapsed.
Mm-hmm.
Does that track?
I mean, I feel like it feels like everyone has had a lapse in their journey. I mean, you have to hit that lowest point so that you train and power up.
Right.
Yeah.
That was my turning away from from anime was like, my dark night of the soul. I just really had to get there. I mean, that was like a big part of like Joe and I's like friendship and like starting to talk to each other was, the shared DNA of Toonami and all that got a generation of future weebs on board.
There was like literally no other kid who was like we gotta see what's on those tapes in that Blockbuster section we're not allowed to look at, right? Like we need to see what is in the dreaded anime section. No one else was interested. I was worried you were going to say no, and the reason that is the first time we ever hung out, I think it was in 7th grade, you showed up to my house with like a very rare Dragon Ball PlayStation game, but it was in the jewel case for the Godzilla single. If my timeline is correct, this would be the Matthew Broderick one where it's very rainy.
Yes, I want to say like the single was called like Killer Bees something. It was
But it had a Dragon Ball fighting game in it.
Yes.
And the other thing I want to communicate here is that was an amazing thing to show me because that game was always at Blockbuster, but it was always not available because every time it got replaced, it would be stolen because you could steal it and sell it for more than like the cost of what they charge you. So the scam was going. So this was my first time I got to touch the thing that I've only been like teased with. And I don't think we even played it. You were just like, check it out. And I was like, damn.
Oh, no, we played it.
Did we? Okay.
And also, like, the reason that one of the people who took it from Blockbuster was my older brother.
Oh.
We directly were a part of the supply chain of Dragon Ball Dragon Ball GT Final Bout. We were directly part of the supply chain that denied you Dragon Ball GT The Final Bout from Blockbuster Video.
How fucked up was it that they continued to put the case out there even though you could never rent it? That's just psychic torture.
I mean, like, later working at that Blockbuster, it was very much that I was the only person who actually cared about the video game section.
Oh.
Yeah, well, like there's a few other people, but, like, it felt very much like it was it was neglected compared to some of the other sections. Which, like, fair. It's mainly trafficked by kids.
Mm-hmm.
That's true, but also when you go into another Blockbuster that had like a pretty good video game section, you're like, I live in a third world country. This like it's just like they got fucking JRPGs I've never seen before.
Yeah, like we did the one Palos Heights, but if you got the rides to go to the one in Orland Park, ooh boy.
So, part of the, I imagine, the pain of growing up with the shitty Blockbuster, you learned to make do with what was given to you. And I know this is true because I know that you have discovered many wonderful, weird shit in the dump. One of which is a movie that we'll talk about in more detail later. That when you showed it to me, like, changed my life in a real way. This fucking film. So like, how'd you get into this? How'd you get into this sort of remixing what you could find? Like, how did that come up?
Yeah,
is it because you grew up with trash and only had trash?
Absolutely. It's not necessarily that everything was a dump, but with that loss of like culture and like, I don't know, an art world, not even an art world, but like that'd be because that makes it sound like because of like the dearth of opportunity and like conversation about like art and books and shit. Like I got a bunch of my books like and culture from thrift stores. So it's kind of like this fragmented sense of like, sifting through all this shit to like, get classic literature that otherwise wouldn't wouldn't be put in front of me. Like, we had libraries, but it wasn't something that, like, hey, here's a reason that you would go to a place to look at this. Like, I wouldn't just go through a library shelves and be like, oh. So, yeah, thrift stores just kind of added, like, became this nexus point of this, like, fragmented, like, hand-me-down culture of stuff. And for a period of time, like, I made money by flipping, like, rare stuff that I found at thrift stores. But mainly I would go there just, I don't know, if I was bored. We had a couple good ones in the area. I had one that was like a short walk from where I lived. So that ended up becoming like finding old VHS tapes that looked interesting, curious like computer games, pretty much any curious piece of media I discovered, I would just like snatch up and find a way to like share it or find different ways to access it, be it like VHS tapes, you know, record players, old computer games that, you know, as time goes on are just harder and harder to, you know, put them through the proper emulation. Same thing with VHS tapes, because there's a timer on those as far as atrophy.
Yeah. And I feel like even beyond the sort of like cataloging and maintaining these ephemeral pieces of media, I feels like, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I just don't know where to look, but that experience of basically like putting your hand in a black box and you're pulling out what could be fucking anything. Like that thrill, I don't think we really have as much anymore, because everything's so curated, and even like any weird stuff is like on YouTube, and it's like, well, this is just some fucking right-wing weirdo trying to make money. I don't know.
Right. And like there is like, and like with that, there is that sense of sincerity that happens with like the best, like, oh wow, okay, this is a person on YouTube, I don't know what I'm getting into. Like one of the pleasures that I had during quarantine was listening to a random person's analysis of Tenet, with no desire to watch the movie, and just the amount of like, yeah, okay, yeah, this is my video on Tenet. So, and like, it's like he watched it, but it also himself is coming to terms with what it is, like, as he's doing the description, and it's just like all voiceover over stuff. It's all this narration over production stills. And, you know, I think that makes it so funny. But to get to, I love that sense of mystery. That sense of mystery was, I don't know, it's a sense of excavation. And it reminds me of this one time growing up where, like, we received a Commodore 64, like, from one of my dad's friends at work. And just, like, with a bunch of games already, like 30 games or so, just, like, kind of dropped on us. And we were just able to go through each of these random things, like, completely blind, and be like, okay, cool, let's figure out what this is. And being able to like repeat that with hand-me-down systems, like if you like an Atari, or like we got our hands on a Odyssey 2 with a bunch of games, and just going into that completely blind, because nobody knows what's on Odyssey 2, and having that experience of like, oh, I guess this is what this is. Oh wait, what is this character doing? Oh no, what the fuck am I playing? It's so delightful, and it's a way to kind of like share that experience of, you know, like sharing that experience of not knowing what you're going to get, but still having that little bit of gatekeeping, like at least online, to be like, hey, I'm not going to make you watch something that's absolutely gross. You know, that was one of the things I watched that really stuck with me was, oh my god, it was a PSA called Suffer the Children, the Gay Agenda in Public Schools. One of the thrift stores, I know, one of the thrift stores the thrift store that I grew up closest to was a Christian thrift store. So they ended up getting a lot of VHSs that the local Catholic schools would
the hate's all used out of these tapes. We're done with them.
Right. So like they're like, oh yeah. Well, I mean, I think they had the hate updated to a new medium. So they're like, all right, like
This is stale hate.
yeah, like oh my god, this VHS hate. I need my hate on Blu-ray. And yeah, and like just being able to kind of witness this artifact that, you know, is more or less sent to schools because another PSA or another informational video called It's Elementary that's, you know, talking about the best ways to talk about like queerness and introduce queerness in public schools and to kids at a young age. That this video, It's Elementary, scared the American Family Association so badly and so to their core that they hacked together this PSA video response that in its running time of like 25 minutes, like 15 minutes are clips of It's Elementary, likely not paid for or licensed, and it's just like a guy just like walking around like at a school doing direct address to a camera, just saying like, this is homosexual grist, and like all of these grist, like all of these horrible things. So it's like, you know, as a queer person, it's a lot of whiplash of like, oh wow, look at this nice video, and it's like, oh wow, that's the talking point. Oh no. And like they use this point of like it starts off with this generic version of the Jaws theme music over slow motion of like kids walking at school. It's like all of these like fear-mongering tactics. There's one of them where they talk to a doctor about like the dangers of being gay and how gay people have a hard life and therefore you shouldn't be gay.
Yeah, why is it hard?
Why is it hard? Like, it's so weird. Like, gay people like to use drugs and nobody knows why. So don't be gay. So then you don't use drugs, you dummy. But like they were doing their B-roll for that were gay people like having a good time at Disney World, like just waving at the camera and like this like very like, you know, mid-90s idea of what a gay man looks like, and just like them like waving at the camera, and it's just like, yeah, I mean it was, I don't know, I didn't know I was queer at that point, so it's just kind of like, oh man, this is making me feel a whole lot of different things. It's funny, but also, oh no, and just kind of having to, you know, reconcile these kind of things that like I'm witnessing more or less on my own. And then later I would upload stuff online to a YouTube channel called VH Shambles. And like I uploaded that, and then that got into the algorithm of hate groups. And I got a whole bunch of comments that I didn't like. And, you know, I got to see, like, part of the playlist that it was added to. So then I re-edited it to be pro-gay. And that was fun.
I remember you invited me in to show me what you were, a clip of this. And I don't remember any specifics other than I was hurt from laughing. Because the cuts, it might have just been a doctor just talking about how these gay guys at Disney World are having a good time, which really did it for me.
There was like this part of like, you know, we have to lead children into homosexuality.
Yes. It was a lot of the... Yes, there was a lot of the chef episode of South Park for pro-gay.
Yes. Jesus Christ. It feels like this... There's just this way of finding media sort of haphazardly is not the word, but like there's more of an element of chaos than any sort of like legitimate suburbs blockbuster would ever provide you with. And I think that's sort of the secret sauce that makes it spicy.
Yeah. You know, it's wanting to have this kind of authentic, real experience in a place that, you know, we can talk about this later, but in a place that is, you know, at its core, this thing that is like not rooted in honesty, in this place that is rooted in kind of this artifice of normality. And yeah, it's super weird, but I feel like growing up, definitely as a weird person, it really helped you be able to snag all of these different parts, because I feel like that made the most sense to me, because I know that whatever I was finding and whatever I was being introduced to you did not fit me. I did not feel like I belonged there, so I kind of had to go through this, I don't know, this sense of like other people's trash. And, now growing up, realizing like, oh, I really like something. When I'm done with this, I'm going to donate it. And this kind of continuum, this camaraderie that happens with, building this relationship with thrifting.
And the other thing, I think this is maybe under-discussed, when you're a kid, you can just buy anything at a thrift store. No one gives a shit. So I know we sort of teed up some Southwest suburb stuff, but we're going to talk about sketch now. Sorry. And the reason being is, you and I have this similar affliction, which is that, like, we hate sketch, but we can't stop thinking about it. And Tom doesn't quite have it, because, like, Tom, I'll be like, hey, I love the honk if you're horny sketch from I Think You Should Leave. And he's like, I think he yells too much. And
that's what sketch is.
Yeah. Yeah, like, how did you know he was telling a joke? He was yelling.
Comedy has to be fast and loud. That is that's what we discovered as high school people, and turns out continues to be true. Who'd have thunk that all you have to do is be loud?
So I'm seeing in the document something about the birthday department, and it says, when we did that sketch, that was the best I ever felt performing ever. Everyone went insane. What's that?
That's true and not hyperbole. You know that famous Senate hearing where, like, PBS is going to be defunded and Mr. Rogers is like, I want to make sure all the kids know their colors, and everybody cries?
Yeah.
It's a similar thing where the government is trying to defund the birthday department, and the person is just like, I don't know if you understand this, but, like, people won't be able to become old enough to drive. Like, if you cut this, like, if people don't have birthdays, they won't get older. Like, do you want babies not to learn anymore? And the thing that, like, makes everyone lose their mind is that, like, it keeps escalating. Continue. Yeah.
His name, the person who's grandstanding for the birthday department, the department head, his name his title is Senator Cumpleaños.
Yeah. Yes.
I feel like it's a necessary detail to go into.
I forgot.
Before we talk about before we go into his grand.
I forgot about his name because I was fixated with what happened, which is we put a balloon in a briefcase, and when we opened it halfway through and it came out, people gasped. So there's a big moment where he gives a dumb explanation of why birthdays are important, and this is the point where everyone else started singing "Happy Birthday," but to the hymn of the Old Republic.
Happy birthday.
As we started, like, handing out, like, streamers and shit. And it was just like one of those things where, like, no one knew who we were. This was like a big like all-day comedy festival, so like people had no idea. So like to just like get this response out of this as everyone was losing their mind was just like, oh, okay, this is what I want all the time. Unfortunately, it'll come at the cost of your sanity.
But what is sanity? When it comes to making comedy with a group of friends.
It's true. I also want to kind of like just say something you've said to me back to you because on the subject, and it's also left an impression with me. And I shared it with Tom, and he also thought it was good, but he doesn't remember this. We were just talking about how, like, like the 90s Patton Oswalt stand-up yelling about Bush doesn't age that well. Not that he's wrong, but it's like, I don't care. It's like baby facts at this point. And then I was like, you compare that to the hot dog sketch from I Think You Should Leave, and it's like timeless. And then what you said to me was, sometimes it's braver to put on the hot dog costume. And and
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, man. All right. So like, that is the essence of comedy, where it's like, it's this kind of removing yourself from this sense of like, yeah, I'm right, to like, no, like, if you're right, you have to do what you hate, and like embody that to show why it's dumb. The hot dog suit is incredibly important. You need the hot dog suit for comedy. You need the sense of stepping into this thing and embodying the thing that you think is ridiculous, because then that gives you permission to be ridiculous. And that gives you permission to, like, do that thing to such an extent that it is ruined. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the, like that is a huge part of, like, what makes it so memeable, is that, like, this is an asshole in power. This is how ridiculous they are. It has now been distilled into a single line from a sketch.
And if you're Patton Oswalt just being like, when Republicans are rude and hypocritical, well, that's just too bad. There's, as Joe says, there's no staying power, because like, he's right, but that's all that he is. Like, he's just like, I'm smart and those people are dumb. And it's like, well, I already knew that. Yeah. But when Tim Robinson puts on the hot dog suit
and he starts naming porn sites,
that is an image that's going to be in people's minds forever, and it's part of like human language now. Like, whenever any fucking Republican is like, we need to become unified, there's too much division, people don't post a Patton Oswalt stand-up line saying Bush sure sucks. They post Tim Robinson in a hot dog suit
with no words. Like, you don't even need the words.
That is, I think, really speaks to, you know, what is actually transgressive versus what is just what people want to hear. And that is a huge part, the actual process of speaking truth to power. Mm-hmm. Patton Oswalt saying, like, this is dumb and I don't like it, and I'm going to talk to people who agree with me, is not transgressive in any means. It's kind of just like, what? Okay, cool. You know, neat. Yeah, you can do that.
Like, yeah, buddy, you figured it out. It's not hard. You wrote here, and I agree with you a lot, where you say that whenever you meet someone who likes comedy but isn't a nerd about it, you don't understand what they actually like. And my response to that is that what they like is they like someone to read a news headline and then make a face. Like, that is to them the tops.
Yeah,
that is it, baby. Give me that Seth Meyers. Give me that face. I need to know what to feel.
Yeah, the news. I read about that. Oh, but that guy's making a face like he's like, huh? I guess this news is wacky. Damn.
And that entire process is so, like, how someone gets to that point in a career to be like, excellent, I have ascended comedy. I now have a nightly show in which I read headlines and make a face. Things are going great.
We said this too, and it's like, this sucks because Stephen Colbert confirmed for us that he actually doesn't know why he was funny.
Yeah. Like developing a character in, like, Colbert Report is hot dog suit.
Mm-hmm. Oh my god.
It's just the hot dog suit conservative show.
Yes. The Daily Show with hot dog suit.
Right, and that's why it affected more change in its short run than Daily Show has.
And that's why when he took off the hot dog suit, it was such a cowardly dereliction of duty.
Right. You know, it's
like, now he just, like, cries. They all just cry now. Like, that's like the other thing where it's like a late night host also has to be like an emotional martyr, where like every time rot continues to happen, because why would it stop? They have to address you, is because no one else in your life is telling you what's going on, I guess.
like why are we pointing to them as an arbiter of an emotional compass when what they are doing is simply trying to Like, I feel like a lot of what they're doing is this sense of, like, anticipating, like, what an audience will want to hear that will, like, help them, as opposed to what will legit help them. And, like, the healing power of comedy. Like, the difference between, you know, going on air and doing and crying and, you know, dressing up as Hillary Clinton and playing Hallelujah. The other way to go about that is the 9/11 issue of The Onion, where it's just leaning really into these feelings, but also still being pretty transgressive. In just being like, no, we are going to address this head on.
I feel like the late night hosts weeping is actually, I mean, it's not, what it is exactly the same as reading a news headline and making a face, except instead of the face being a mugging face, being like, can you believe this shit? It's like, the news headline is like, today there was a fascist coup.
There was 1.5 9/11s, and then you cry.
And it's just the face that goes with the story.
This is a genius transition, as if we fucking planned it. Because you have a sketch show that just came out. It is a solo sketch show. It debuted. So I will tee you up to talk about that, but also it obviously was informed by all the things we just discussed, because you just recently made it, and the shit you articulated to us is bopping around in your brain nonstop.
Oh yeah. No, it's still very raw in there. And I mean, it's making something that it's something that like I've wanted to do, but really haven't had the push to do it. The special is called Show for Ghosts. You can find it at clustercuts.tv, and you can also find it on YouTube. Yeah, it's a solo sketch show filmed entirely in a forest preserve in the southwest suburbs. It is filmed over 2 or 3 seasons, depending on your definition of season. It started production, like writing and all that, at the beginning of July, and we finished it and premiered it in the last weeks of December.
Hell yeah. It's like you just launched a big project, so you got dopamine, right?
Yeah, it's great. Though it is super weird to put together a show and not be able to witness how people are reacting to it. It's my first time really working with like longer, like even just video. Just recording in general is something that I've stayed away from, mainly probably out of fear because of this exact thing. But you know, it's as compared to other sketch that I had written, and like I really want to incorporate how much of that like personal growth and reflection and like kind of this sense of, I don't want to say Zen, but like spirituality that has kind of like manifested in a lot of my writing when I started using writing as like a daily meditative practice. Like that, allowing that to come in through this and not be worried about like a live audience that I don't know, like trying to like fucking do this at an open mic would have scared the shit out of me. So just being able to kind of do this right out the gate, sit down, write something that resonates with me, run it by the collective at Clustercuss, who came to me saying like, hey, we're doing specials, do you want one? And me saying like, yeah. And just kind of working with this collective of artists to build this, you know, what ultimately ended up being like a 22-minute sketch show with music and a puppet show and a bunch of different genres of sketch and of art. Like there is a poem that has like a movement play set to it, like shit that I hadn't seen in sketch, which really didn't make sense that I had seen this in sketch, just on the nature of sketch being whatever the fuck you want it to be.
Which sucks because it's mostly a town hall sketch where people yell.
And I fucking love a good town hall sketch.
I love them. I really do. Em, you just spoke very passionately about comedy, and I want to like also sort of like meet that sincerity. When we did sketch together, we had sort of like a dumb rule where like we would all have to agree on a sketch. And one of the ideas you said forever ago, this was like 15 years ago, and I said no. You said, like, what if there was a house on Halloween that was just like giving out like
God.
those pickled pig fetuses that are in science classrooms? And I was wrong. That's so good.
But
That's
okay,
so fucking good.
The concept of it, like the delivery of it, of like it's the end of the Halloween, like of the trick or treating like day at that house, and it's like the couple who are like the newlyweds at the house. It's like, all right, well, so you handed out the candy, right? And it's like, yeah, the whole bucket's empty. And it's like, no, the bucket of the candy is still here. Oh man, what did you hand out? Oh god, it wasn't ding dong. Hi, did you give my kid 30 or so of fake fetuses? It's maybe.
I've also been thinking on it, and I want to add another angle, which is two kids who put on different costumes so they can get a second helping of the pig fetuses. And then like they could coyly be like, "Didn't you guys come here already?" And you're like, "No, these are different costumes."
Guys, I don't want to butt into your writing process. I know I'm not experienced with sketch, but a further escalation is those kids get their second helping, and another kid is like, "Oh, don't waste your time there. There's a house down the street giving out full-size pigs." That's the fucking button.
Sicko mode, sicko mode, sicko mode. Sicko mode, sicko mode, sicko mode. Sicko mode, sicko mode, sicko mode. Sicko mode, sicko mode, sicko mode.
You introduced me to a movie at one point. I made mention of this earlier in the episode, and that movie was a very important film to me in my life. This happened in an earlier podcast of mine that I had a baby microphone that I used for 3 people, which was a fucking mistake. And I don't talk about that podcast anymore. I don't promote it, but there were some parts that were very important to me. One of them was that I watched this movie that you had found, I assume, from the dump, that was called Robot in the Family. Now, you were at a edition of The Skewer where you told me about Robot in the Family, and I believe that you were an insane liar. Then we watched it, and it's real. It's real.
I'm so glad to be able to share that. It is a fever dream of a movie. I would watch it over and over again because it should not exist.
Can I take a stab at the synopsis?
Yeah. Let's go around taking stabs at the synopsis and see what each of us what we connect with.
My understanding of the movie is that a family man who is deep in debt, and he has like an antique or gadget business, and he's about to lose his huge house. So the way he's going to get himself out of financial woes and save his family's middle-class lifestyle is that he builds a robot, the purpose of which is to find gold. I want to address the elephant in the room right away. Does the robot sound just uncomfortably Jewish? Absolutely. It's not great, folks.
Oh God! Does the robot actually like find gold? Pretty much never. Most of the time, it just like goes around and has like funny misunderstandings around New York. And by funny, I mean like he kills people by accident because he doesn't know his own strength, and then he walks away.
Yes, and no one is like really worried about the robot. Like they're more worried about the danger and the damage he leaves in his wake.
I do know that we do have to say that so this is a movie that was made by an insane man who stars and wrote and directed, and the villain character is fucking John Rhys Davies, Gimli from Lord of the Rings, and he plays the hated Eli, and they call him the hated Eli. Anytime they talk about
no
Eli,
good crook Eli. It's the hated Eli, that no good crook Eli.
There's definitely a real guy that the director knows.
Yeah,
that he hates.
whenever he talked about Eli, he got real personal and really specific. Like,
Yeah,
it
he
was
owns
so
a fucking-
venomous.
Okay.
He owns a knick-knack store next door, and it does much better.
They handle antiques. Okay, so I want to say the director who, like, he appears in the movie, but it is starring like his proxy, like, mouthpiece is Joe Pantoliano.
Wait,
It
but he's
is
speaking
directed-
always. He's always talking in like an Eastern European accent.
It is so bad that, like, wavers in and out. It is not consistent, and which is a shame because it is constantly used. There is no silence in the movie.
Oh,
Yes!
my
The
God.
moment
Yes!
that there's silence, like, terrible, something bad would happen. In order to make sure there is no silence, consistently throughout the movie, whenever there is any point that could potentially be suspenseful, they have Gold Digger sing nursery rhymes.
Yes.
Like
Gold
Mary had a
Digger's the
little
robot,
lamb.
to be clear.
Just
Yeah.
like while the music is still like kind of like being suspenseful. They just
Two noted public domain songs.
yeah.
I mean, like the robot's mouth isn't like articulated, so they can just ADR in anything at any time, and it's fine. They don't need to match any lip flaps.
Yeah,
It's just like
he
just
has
put it in.
C-3PO mouth.
Oh,
Yes.
but also they don't like they ADR the humans all the time. Like
yeah.
like 20% of the dialogue. This is not an exaggeration. At least 20% of the dialogue was added in post, and like very obviously.
It's better than The Room.
Oh my god. Okay, so he is an antique dealer. His rival is another antique dealer. They're neighbors in both life, in like their house and in their business. The dreaded Eli paid for terrorists to buy the helmet of Suleiman and create more war in the Middle East.
Yes. I believe that there's a point where someone says, "Ah, yes, war, profitable war."
Yeah, that's like at like the climax. That's like in the climactic moments. John Rhys Davies like does like an action where he has to like push over a wheelbarrow, which has some implications, and he like rubs his hands together and he says, "Ah, yes, profitable war." It's so good.
Wait, okay, what I need you to tell me what, because it's a line that when you hear it you're just like, no, like I didn't just see that. What is the direction? Because all that shit about John Rhys Davies and the actual plot, who gives a fuck? It doesn't matter. What matters is the robot, which is unconnected to any of that. What is the line that the inventor gives to the robot as his programming?
Oh man, okay. So the movie starts off with one of the best fucking beginnings. It is a montage of like Gold Digger, and it's a little dreamy, like it's you know kind of like like not black lights, but it's a darker. It's darker lighting, so like you're trying to piece together like all of these close-ups of this robot, and this narration starts over, and it's like, "Gold Digger, oh Gold Digger, come into my life. You are a protector and a gold detector. You will bring me all the gold, and when you get in trouble, you call police right away."
He does do that. He does not do that. Folks,
It does
doesn't do
murder
it.
though.
Well, like, oh, man, hold on. What's the other fucking line from that? You'll be as gentle as a butterfly. You'll be as brave as a lion. You will have plenty of horsepower, and you are 100% American.
Okay, so the reason I thought that the fucking lead actor was the director is because, like, Joe Pantoliano knows English, and he had to say all that, and, like, I'm just like, nah. It had to be someone who didn't really understand what he was saying. Had to be a foreign guy who, like, just moved here. Also, unrelated, but, like, the guy drives a solar-powered car, which I gotta tell you is, like, 1,000 times more impressive than a gold-detecting robot. It's
Yeah.
a functioning solar car.
Yeah, and people make fun of him for it. It's like, there goes that asshole with his solar-powered car that he invented using only knickknacks.
Yeah, anyone who can invent something like that is clearly a destitute idiot who couldn't scrape together 2 dimes if his life depended on it.
Oh yeah, because he desperately wants to be out of the antique game. He wants to be in the inventor game.
Yeah, because the dreaded Eli is an antique man, and if you are an antique man, then you're like Eli.
Yeah.
You have to deal with him every day.
That dreaded crook.
The thing that really does it for me is that all of the dreaded Eli stuff. Okay, so he made this AI from scratch and told it its prime directive, and it was also like, and here are some bad facts about this guy I don't like. So like,
Let me tell you about Eli.
yeah, so from the minute it has consciousness, it's like find gold and I hate the dreaded Eli. And it's so fucking funny because it knows facts about him before it has met him. He's MODOK machine only designed for hating Eli or whatever.
There is a moment there's a moment at the end of the movie, and Em is right in that there is literally not a second of this movie that does not have spoken dialogue running through it. There's an anime movie, The Night is Short, Walk On Girl, that's very similar to this, except it's done on purpose as like an artistic choice, because the main character is constantly overthinking things in his head and just poring over every single facet of his life. So there's just like constant him overthinking his life and getting himself into mental headaches and knots for no reason because he's an idiot. This movie, there's no point. It's just like, what if I think it's like he read in a book, like if there's silence in your movie, the cops will kill you and take your gold. So the point being, at the end of the movie, the climax has happened and the dreaded Eli has like fallen into like some sticky goo or something that has caused his evil plan to fail, and now there won't be war. In this room somewhere, there's gold, but no one cares because they're just sort of decompressing from the climax, and everyone's sort of discussing what just happened. I think some police show up and are like, yeah, we're going to take Eli. We've always wanted to arrest Eli because he's a fucking crook. We dread.
That is the one time that he actually calls the police.
He's supposed to get, the minute something goes wrong, he calls the police right away. Yeah. But no, that's what he's supposed to do. But during this entire scene, the robot is just going, gold, 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 gold. And the more he says it and is ignored, in one of the more hilarious line reads I've ever heard in anything, this robot just gets more and more like gold, 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 gold. No one fucking listens. It gets so fucking pissed. Like, gold, gold.
Gold! Gold!
This is a robot who talks like this normally.
Gold.
And it's just like gold. Gold. Gold.
This is also in like a warehouse for illegal ISIS artifacts.
Yeah,
right.
Dude.
Like Hobby Lobby. Like I'm now realizing the plot is just the Hobby Lobby thing.
It was foretelling Hobby Lobby. The dreaded crook Hobby Lobby.
Yeah, you just replace the hated Eli with Hobby Lobby, and it's the same shit.
Also, I think there was a subplot where I forget why this came up, but there was like a doctor who was sexually obsessed with making casts.
Yeah.
Yes. The master of plaster. Like the receptionist was super horny. Also, this movie is for kids. I want to... Okay, so it was originally made as just like a comedy for us adults. And it didn't have much of a robot, or any robot. And...
well, they fucked up.
And then like he wanted to get this movie sold, and they're like, well, why don't you make it a kids movie? And had a robot. And had more scenes with this robot. And he's like, all right. So... there's like specific parts where it's like very much more for adults, that like no kid would enjoy this. And then there's just like a 20-minute stretch that's just robot hijinks of no bearing on anything in the plot. So
to be clear, the robot's not looking for gold at this point. He's just sort of walking around, loving life. He sees someone, it's like, not Eli. That means you're a friend. What's the deal, buddy?
He is an emotionally vacant bicentennial man.
So this is a funny thing that I discovered. So one of the actors, there were 3 actors who were in the robot suit. They had to cycle between them because it was extremely painful and caused you to die instantly because it was designed poorly. One of them was John Patrick Shanley, who you may also know as the Pulitzer Prize winning writer of the play Doubt.
Wait, what?
The Academy Award winning screenwriter of Moonstruck, and most recently, the writer of play and movie Wild Mountain Thyme. The big emotional twist of which is that there is a guy who thinks that he is a bee.
This is great.
Huh.
This is so
Yeah.
good.
So, like, you also look at John Rhys Davies' trajectory, and you can just, like, ascertain that this was a star maker.
Yeah, for sure. Every time I
Yeah.
see Lord of the Rings and I see Gimli on screen, I become furious because it's the dreaded Eli, the crook. I think about the robot who hates Eli, and I'm like, I hate Eli too. We're
Well, like,
fucking together on that.
I mean, like, okay, first of all, that means that there is someone who has additional information about Robot in the Family who must be investigated. Another thing that I heard, okay, this person had obvious connections. He had these, connections to, like, New York filmmaking. And evidently, it is known, or at least reported, that Martin Scorsese has watched this movie, like, before it came out.
Oh my god.
Like, he got it in front of Scorsese as like, all right, what do you think? Which is such, like, imagining that, like, 90 minutes of Martin Scorsese's life. Of,
What
like,
if he loved it, though? Like, objectively. Like, what if
he's
he's
like-
just like, there's a lot of fun stuff here. I
Damn, why
see a
don't-
lot of... see a lot of creative energy.
I'm
Like,
thinking about all the times in my movies when no one was talking, and like, what a waste.
The Irishman could have been, like, 1 hour.
The reason, if I'm remembering correctly, the reason there is a 20-minute scene where, like, somebody humps a big fake foot was because the dreaded Eli was using the foot fetish cast maker to produce, like, a fake artifact or something, and this would result in more war in the Middle East. There's some missing logic there. I understand, but I'm just saying this is what happens.
Oh, wait,
Also,
no, hold on.
wasn't there a point where like a big Texan antique guy was going to come buy antiques from our hero, but then the dreaded Eli said like free BBQ with an antique purchase at my antique store, and the Texas guy was like, I can't turn down barbecue.
That did happen.
Am I thinking that up?
No, that did happen. That
Yeah, every character is just, like, made from, like, a joke book you get at a library sale. It's amazing.
So Em, if I wanted to watch Robot in the Family, would it be possible for me to do that? I mean, it's probably pretty rare. Probably didn't make a lot of copies of it. Probably it's impossible to watch, right?
actually, you can find it easily on YouTube. Just search Robot in the Family, and it'll come up.
Who could have done such a service?
Why, that me. I'm that person. I did it. And like interest picked up on it in 2020 because Red Letter Media did a viewing of it. So suddenly I got
hell
the
yeah.
deluge of comments just like, what is this movie? Which made me feel so good. Like, it's validating this weird kid energy of like, you know, this movie that is brainwormed my dang head.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you what, the best thing about Anime Sickos by far is like when you get this dumb thing in your head and you're just like, I know that this is the fucking best. And then years go by and everyone's like, shut up. And then you just keep being like, no, it's the best. I'm going to keep doing it. And then eventually someone's like, damn, this is funny. And you're like, I know.
It is such justice. It is such like, oh, it's such just beautiful validity. Oh God, please just inject that feeling into my veins. All of my Jeremiahs had come true.
We're the anime sickos, and we're here to say anime is bad in a war crimes way.
So normally we do cog talk. This is rot talk, where we talk about the specific rot of our ancestral homeland of 127th and Pulaski. So Em, as we mentioned previously, we grew up in the same area, and you also had the same experience I did, where like as you left that area and you found out what people actually meant when they said suburban, and you're like, fuck.
Yeah, where the fuck was I?
And I together, let's sort of like, for people unfamiliar, hopefully we can co-create sort of the chaotic and scary energy of the southwest suburbs. So people don't remember things anymore, but there was a period in, I believe, was it 2007, when there was a cemetery that figured out you can make a bunch of money if you just dig up your old bodies and put them under a tarp and resell the plots.
Yeah, Burr Oak in Alsip, Illinois.
Yeah, so that happened, and then the part that I realized, like, maybe this isn't, like, normal, maybe this shouldn't happen, is when, like, you also had to go to a high school gym to find out if they lost your grandpap.
Yeah, please talk about this.
I mean, that's it. They were like, you have to go to the Eisenhower School gym, and we have to cross-reference, like, the names and the plots.
Make sure you have a pressing of your pappy's teeth.
This, of course, there was a moment of absolute terror, because if you're familiar with the story, you'd be like, isn't there another angle here? And it's like, was this where Emmett Till was buried? Yes. And they also reassured, he's fine. They were like, we dug up everybody else.
Including Michelle Obama's grandparent. I want to say grandmother.
Yes. That reassurance was like, hands down, the funniest sad thing that I've ever, like, experienced. Just like, oh, no, we didn't do that.
We're not monsters. We're not going to be overtly racist.
We only dug up people no one cares about.
Oh. And do you want to talk a little bit about the fact that there was, like, no sidewalks, there was no public area. It was just a big strip mall, and it was a huge anchor to our lives, and that's fucked up.
Yeah. So I mean, I feel like that's something that happens with like a lot of suburban areas when you have this absence of, like, I don't know, local business or local really anything. You just kind of get this like weird community that just hangs out at strip malls, and that's it. That's where you go. You have parks too. It's hanging out at parks. There's forest preserves, but there's pervs there, so you don't go there. That is said a lot as a kid.
Found out about cruising that way.
Yeah, like, and like it's like, oh yeah, if you go to a forest preserve, at the very least in the southwest suburbs, you're gonna be cruised on. There's gonna be some old people, old men wanting to get some action, and you have to say like, no, thank you.
You have to be very firm with them.
Just imagine it's a swipe or no swiping thing. Yeah, so like you kind of just have to make the best with what you got. Spent a lot of time in like Rivercrest, which is like a strip mall in Crestwood, with the Best Buy and a movie theater. So that was like
hell yeah, that's
huge
the good
nexus. One. Yeah.
It was also like the nexus for everyone, because it was right on the cusp of several towns, like Chicago. The southwest suburbs are just starkly segregated in a cartoonish way. And it's on the cusp of several towns. So like, it's also the nexus for like everyone in like a large orbit.
Mm-hmm. So
there was this pull nonstop to go to what is essentially a Best Buy and hangout. Or alternatively, there was Hollywood Park, which was like How would you describe it?
Hollywood Park, I mean, it was like an arcade with mini golf. They added some laser tag at some point. There was a ball pit. And it just pretty much stayed in steady decline.
Yeah, because it was treated as a open-air babysitter. Lots of just like, well, I got stuff to do, so get out of the car. You're going to Hollywood Park. Here's $20.
And there was also the DDR machine. So that's where, it aged with me. I went from the weird kid being pushed out of the car to the weird kid being walking up to it, walking to Hollywood Park on my lonesome or with some other weird kids to play Dance Dance Revolution. I went on some dates there in high school. There's a person that I'd meet there pretty much, and we would just make out behind the Hollywood Park. Yeah. Weird times. Great times.
The other thing that is worth noting is this shopping plaza was in a city called Crestwood, Illinois, which unfortunately gave all of its residents cancer.
Yeah.
So the short version is that the mayor made some cost-cutting procedures that got a bunch of shit into the water, which was obviously carcinogens. And then people started dying, and it was covered up. The thing that really forever scarred me about it, I think, is reading afterwards about how up until that point, the Trib, I think it was, and other newspapers insisted that it was the best run town in America because there was a $20 rebate that all the residents got or some bullshit.
Yeah, there was huge tax incentives to live in Crestwood, and they're like, how do they do it? Every place should give their residents money. Everyone should move to Crestwood. And it's but the poisoned water. It's it was runoff from a laundromat that was in another strip mall that went into the CalSag. And they didn't have filtration or anything because that's where they had to save that money.
Yeah.
And now the residents are still very much we want money for living here, even though it was definitely blood money. So now the new mayors have to keep up with this unreal demand of giving money to its residents.
We drank the poison. Give us the money.
And it's not even oh, hi, I got sick because of the poison. Can you give me some money? Because, of course they don't want to do that. That is, oh my God. That would be so much money. And, they try to bury it. It's very, there's actually a really awesome story behind it. Has, a lot of Aaron Brockovich vibes. And they were just, really trying to push that story aside, instead just give everyone more money. Absolutely.
They were going to steamroll the whole cancer thing with bigger checks, and that'll work. I want to be clear.
Mm-hmm.
As someone who would very much like the government to send him a check, that would work. My views on Joe Biden would change a lot if I got 2,000 buckaroos.
Fingers crossed. No, I feel there is especially within the southwest suburbs, if that were to happen in any other suburb of Chicago in the west suburbs or northern suburbs, it would be a completely different story, mainly because the other places really don't need money as an incentive. The people who are going there are already pretty affluent, there's kind of these standard bearers that we associate with the other suburbs like Naperville, and in that sense, the slogan of the southwest suburbs, if we had a water tower would just read, "You think you're better than me?" It is just this constant sense of scarcity that we're all just trying to everyone is trying to eke out. Everyone is kind of broken in this sense of we are working class, but it's also we're not really seen. And it's between working class and then abject poverty within.
Mm-hmm.
And we're right outside Mount Greenwood, where as the limit of Chicago is where in the 70s, I want to say, maybe 80s, it was decreed by daily that all of the cops of Chicago needed to live within the city limits proper. So
Right.
all of the cops.
So that neighborhood is like, what if there was a town where the only job was cop?
Right. And like then you get into the opposite of white flight, where you have like a bunch of people, all cops, worried about property costs, and that is code in Illinois and in Cook County as worried about other races, worried about equity, worried about this sense of scarcity that should not exist, which actually is a fucking lie. Yeah.
Also, I remember our hometown was so Islamophobic that Harvard wrote a paper about it. And I know this because this is maybe maybe it should be revealed here. Winnie went to Harvard. Folks, she's slumming. I don't know. Folks, she's slumming. But she was like, "Did you know about this paper?" I was like, "Know about it? That was my neighbor."
Know about it? I wrote it.
yeah. Post 9/11, there was obviously the insane police state and like Islamophobia, but like, man, oh man, it really took root.
Yeah.
At least you guys got Swap-O-Rama, though, right?
Right. See, in
Yeah.
like it's
Yes.
the southwest suburbs taketh and the southwest suburbs giveth. Swap-O-Rama. I mean, we took a lot of trips up there. I think you had a couple people from the neighborhood that talked about this a little, like Chuck Rios.
Yeah,
I think.
Chuck and Medley.
Yeah, Swap-O-Rama. Like, I mean, that's where we got like all of our.
that's where anime comes from.
That is where anime comes from. The good stuff, the sub stuff.
And like kunai, if you need a kunai, and like a guy who's not going to be weird about you buying one, even though you're like 9, that's also cool.
Like, I think my brother got a butterfly knife from there at an age that was questionable. At best. You know, otherwise, you know, it is like a flea market that is pretty under the radar. Like, you are going to get some shit that are power tools with serial numbers etched off. You know, like, it's definitely, like, it definitely has a little bit of a seedy edge to it, but that was part of the rush, especially as a kid who, you know, as we were talking about with these, like, having to make our due with, like, this is the Best Buy, this is the movie theater, this is the arcade, go nuts. It's like, this is a place that is unrefined. It has all of these rough edges that is really rare to get as a kid.
And
in
it's
these
also
places.
straight up different every time. Like, it's a roguelike place every time. It's different.
Oh my god. I just want to say that all this is amazing to me because I grew up in Hyrule Castletown.
Yeah.
Like, where like if the water made someone not even get cancer, if the water made someone kind of dizzy, they'd kill the mayor.
It's
That sounds great.
Yeah, that's why I don't suffer from massive anxiety. Just normal amounts.
like for sure our mental illness is specific to weird environment quirks, for sure. And one thing you did say about the southwest suburbs that I want to echo. You said like you can't take the boy out of the south, whatever.
Yeah.
You can't take the southwest suburbs out of the boy, blah blah blah. Do you find take the gender issue out of it? Do you find that there's like a scumbag part of you that like is just like you get moments where it speaks to you and you're
baby.
like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah, that slime time.
One example I have is after college, one of my friends got a job working at Hilti in Oak Lawn at 95th and what is it, Harlem?
Wait, what's Hilti?
Hilti is like a power tool company.
Okay.
And like on the second day, he was like, I can't believe what happened. Some asshole tried to break in to like the storage bay, and then when he couldn't do it, he put gum in the lock so I couldn't like even use it for real. And I was like, man, if I tried to break your lock, I'd be so pissed if it didn't work. And like, I would definitely put gum in it. Like that was like honest to God, I was like, how do you not see where this guy is coming from?
Like, maybe you should have had an easier lock to bust. Like, come on, you don't want to be showing off.
Yeah, do you have that feeling? That scumbag instinct?
Yes, like, okay, so, like, most of the last few years has been me being real love and light and getting in touch with, like, you know, like, this sense of wellness and purpose in myself. And also, some people just fucking have it coming. What the fuck are you doing? Being out here doing that shit. Go fuck yourself. Like it is like needing to access that from a place of like, I don't know, this like active compassion, but is also like, yeah, but also like, some people should just shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Get out of here. And like, I just want to break stuff all the time. I want to smash stuff. I want to confront people in a way that is not healthy. And I am not confrontational, but I have learned conflict through incredibly loud people who have just surrounded me in my life. Not my immediate family, just loud strangers who have no idea how impactful they've been on my personality.
Yes. Friends, I want to steal stuff all the time. Like I was in Jewel and I was looking at the price board for oranges and it was like oranges were $2.99. I was like, I bet I could fucking take that. And like I didn't, but like I was just like, I want that because there's not a lot of them, right? Like, I want that because it's not something you can just buy.
Yeah.
Wait, you mean you wanted the not to take the oranges, but to take the thing that showed how much oranges cost?
Yeah.
Oh my, that is scummy. Oh my god.
I wanted it.
It's just like, yeah, well, like, what are they doing with it? Like, just using it as some sort of sign? Fucking asshole.
One of the times my dad was actually like upset with me in like a moral way. Like he like would get angry with me because I would fuck stuff up, but like a character thing, like shame on you, was when I just stole a bunch of golf signs when I was golfing, like, you know, like hole 1, hole 2. I just put them all in my bag. I just like I was like, oh, I can start my own golf course later.
Start my own golf course.
And like,
I mean, in the area surrounding the southwest suburbs, viable career. And like, okay, I should specify that like the southwest suburbs does have an incredible amount of golf courses because that's how you get people in to get the money. Like we have like a bunch of things that are like, you know, and like a bunch of like neighborhoods and suburbs that are like upper middle class because it's like, all right, now let's get people in these malls. It's very surreal. Like there is this active part of growing up of like, all right, well, you know, upward mobility, I just got to work where the rich people are, which like still kind of exists in my noggin. As I'm like, even as I'm doing like retail stuff, just like, all right, I'm gonna be feeling a little bit more supportive now that I'm around this affluence and it feels more accessible, even though like, no, that's not how shit works.
yeah, that's a fake idea, but it is comforting.
It is comforting. I love that fake idea.
One pitch though, like, why should someone visit the southwest suburbs? The honest answer is that like it's got the best fucking Middle Eastern food on the planet. Mm-hmm. Like there's so much of it. There's a massive Palestinian population in Bridgeview, and it fucking rules.
It's so good. No, there is this place on Harlem, which like there's a huge stretch of Harlem that is just all amazing Mediterranean food. And there's this place called Fatouche, which is really awesome and very fancy. And then there is, I mean, fancy, you know. And then there's another place.
Okay, Em says it's fancy because they give you a receipt in a little treasure box.
Sure. Yeah, man, that's fucking fancy. And they give you bottled water as your regular water.
Whoa.
Yeah. Who fucking, that's a power move as soon as you walk in. Like, yeah, you're gonna be taken care of here. I'm immediately impressed.
Anyway, what about it?
So there's that place, and then But like down the street, there's another place that is like, I don't know, man. It's the size of like a hut. Like it is just like a little island in a parking lot. And it is so fucking good. It is just this phenomenal falafel place. And I found that because I was advised by James Medley, who was on the show previously and is the dang co-director of Show for Ghosts on clustercuss.tv. Please watch it.
Hell.
Never been horny. Never been horny. Don't tell the paper that I ever got horny.
Folks, that's all the anime sickos we got for you this week. This was great. This was a fun episode. Joe, Em, you fucking talked a lot about your weird childhood, and it rules because my childhood was, again, I was in Hyrule Castletown and I played Nintendo. And that was it.
Yeah, you never got to know me in my, like, starter tier Pokemon phase.
Joe Anderson!
Yeah, which was Grimer. It was Grimer.
Oh,
it was Grimer, but he had a computer.
Oh man, yeah, a lot of days of video game, just playing video games in absolute filth. A++ would not change it.
In many ways, I think the sicko DNA is heavily influenced by that environment.
Born sicko. That's like a cultivated sicko right there.
Not even born. I didn't have a chance.
Oh yeah.
God. All right.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us on this lovely Guesto episode. It was a privilege to have you on.
It's wonderful to be here. Thank you so much for having me on.
If people want to know more about you and see your work, and they forgot everything you said previously, where can they go and what can they find?
Oh boy! All right, so I'm getting better on the Hell site Twitter right now. So that's gonna be the Punk Anarchist of Nurturing Kindness, or Panks for Your Help. Then and I also am starting a Patreon. URL for that. I mean, you could just search Em Haverty, but it's also Canarchist is the artist or the URL for it. Instagram, I'm at Paradise Lost. Paradise like to parody something, not with an S. Thank you.
And I heard you had a sketch show. Where can one watch that?
Oh, why yes, Show for Ghosts. That you can find on clustercuts.tv. And also, like, as far as plugs, just like, I don't know, message me on Facebook, say hey if you like the show, reach out.
Yeah,
It's just my name.
sounds good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sweet.
excellent, perfect. Well, yeah, that's the end. That's how we end them. Bye. I've been Tom, an anime sicko.
I'm Joe, an anime sicko.
I'm Em, an anime sicko.
We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Anime Sickos. I've been Tom, a sicko. You can follow me on Twitter at TomHarrison19. Joe is also a sicko. You can follow him on Twitter at ShariaUncle. You can follow Anime Sickos on Twitter at Anime Sickos, or email us at animesickos@gmail.com. Please leave us a review or something. I don't know. Tell a friend. Anyway, until next time, bye.